Hello, and welcome to A Sunny Book Nook. My name is Sunny, and today I'm talking about my favorite books of the year, part two, because part one was just me going through, of course, my favorite books of the year. There's a lot of, speculative fiction, a couple nonfiction, some literary fiction, but today I'm going to be doing the rest of the books that I would consider some of the favorites that I got to this year. If you're watching this in 2024, which is crazy, it's the books that were my favorite in the previous year. Oh, also, I'm wearing these earrings, these watermelon earrings that my friend made, my friend Noxie. I think I've mentioned them before. They do beading, obviously, and I'm wearing these watermelon earrings in honor of Palestinian resistance because, if you don't know, the watermelon is a symbol of Palestinian resistance because it has all the colors of the Palestinian flag, and when the Palestinian flag was banned in Palestinian territories when Israel established itself or whatever, people would raise sliced watermelons as a form of resistance and a sort of replacement for the flag. Anyways, let's get into the rest of my favorite reads of the year. Okay, so the first book I want to talk about is a historical fiction literary novel called The Vaster Wilds by Lauren Groff. I really, really enjoyed this book. I found it so deeply immersive and imaginative and realistic, yet also so moving and emotional in this way that I think all the best fiction does, obviously. Interrupting myself here because I'm realizing that I forgot to mention two books in my favorites of the year part two video. So I'm just gonna get in here and talk about it. So first, the book that I forgot I actually did talk about it, but I got gifted The Vaster Wilds by Lauren Groff in my Secret Santa exchange with my friends the other night. So I just wanted to show off the beautiful copy that I have, even though I did just talk about it in the video. I think that the description of it on the inside, where it's saying that a servant girl escapes from a colonial settlement into the night. She carries nothing with her but her wits, a few possessions, and the spark of God that burns hot within her. What she finds in this terra incognita is beyond the limits of her imagination, and will bend her belief in everything that her own civilization has taught her. I think that is true and real, and it's that's certainly a description of this, but I mean, I think it's so much more than that. It's expansive, and the next paragraph here where it's like, The Vaster Wilds is at once a thrilling adventure story and a penetrating fable about trying to find a new way of living in a world succumbing to the churn of colonialism. A work of raw and prophetic power, it tells the story of America in miniature through one girl at a hinge point in history to ask how and if we can adapt quickly enough to save ourselves. And I think, there were some paragraphs and portions of this book that were so incredibly moving. I couldn't believe it, I think the way that this teenage girl's perspective is just embodied. Let me try to find on page 197, there's this beautiful passage, one of the many in this book, where she says, "Perhaps in her innermost heart she thought, this was no fever vision but a wish that they all die, that a mighty hand would come from the heavens to crush them, every last one. And the voice in her ear said, silky, dost thou truly hate thine own kind so much, girl?" And the girl looked upon the vast and stretching canopy of the trees, the birds thick flying branch to branch, the sun in softness falling through the new leaves and shivering with happiness upon the ground, and said with sadness, "My people would look upon such places, and hate what they saw, would replace it all with cobbled streets and smithies throwing black clouds of smoke into the air." "You did not answer me, child," the voice said sternly, and she thought of the suffering, the death of the children, and said out loud, "I do not hate my own people enough to smite them all," though, in her heart perhaps, she said yes, and when she became aware of the yes in her heart, she began to believe that all of civilization of her people was gone entirely, that she had brought disaster upon them with her secret wish, and what remained of the greatness of generations of Englishmen was only what she held in her fevered brain, that she, insignificant, a mote in God's eye, had now become the human keeper of all that would otherwise be lost. Wow. I think all the sort of delusioned, fevered imaginings that this girl goes through really, it was really moving for me at least. So anyways, to speak on this book even more. My Goodreads review of this book was that it was gorgeous and tragic and expansive. So cinematic. And I stand by that review entirely because it is a colonial settlement type story where this servant girl is running away from a newly established New England colonial settlement, probably in the late 1600s or mid 1600s. There's no explicitly given time, which I think is really serves the story well, because really, like, this could have been any sort of colony or settlement of the new Americas. It's almost like Roanoke, if you know that American story of a collapsing settlement and town that is starving and people are cannibalizing each other, and it's horrific. This girl is running away because she has committed a crime and must be on the run, essentially, and now she's trying to survive in the vast wilderness or whatever. She's a teenage girl who has just only known puritanical Christian English culture her whole life and been a servant class child her whole life. Just has never had anything beyond that scope of reality. And so now when she's running away and she's encountering from a distance various native peoples and trying to survive by, like, shitting in the woods, like finding food to eat, finding shelter in the midst of storms, and exploring different parts of nature as she's just running in directions she just doesn't know, and seeing how to survive and if she wants to survive, and how her worldview is expanded while she is amidst this vaster wilderness, and also how she has to challenge her reality and her beliefs and the things that she knows, because now she's been thrust in this environment that is so unstable and so unfamiliar to her. She has no way of surviving. She's so sick. She's starving. She has been for a long time because of this failing colony, and she is on the run for her life because there is a man sent out by the colony, by the government of the settlement, to try to get her. It is tragic. It is terrifying, but it is so fast-paced, and it's almost like, I mean, I think some other reviews of this book say that, not much happens, I guess, because it's not even so much a survival story. I mean, it is, but it's more so an exploration of this girl's mind and experiences in a way that feels quiet. It's like when you're standing outside in the rain and in the middle of nowhere. It feels like that. It feels like when you're in nature by yourself and you just feel how much you don't know about the world. Like, this is what this book feels like. I don't know, I think people could really enjoy and find themselves immersed in the story in the way that I did. I totally devoured this book. I think I talked about this in my wrap-up, in my most recent one, that I just, like, devoured it over the course of, like, a night. I just stayed up all night reading it. Groff does historical fiction and does women's stories in this way that is so moving and so magical. Even when it's not explicitly magical, it's so spiritual and like, enlightened. She's just such a brilliant writer for that. The next book I want to talk about is another book that I already spoke about in my wrap-up as well, which is Liarmouth by John Waters, which was uproarious, hilarious, absurd, and a lot of people in the comments of that video were also talking about how outrageous this book was and how funny and crazy it is, and like, it totally is just that. I mean, there's this woman who is a pathological liar and she hates everyone and everything, and she runs the scammer business, lives in this dilapidated house that she doesn't pay anything for because it's just abandoned, and she has one guy who works for her and whom she doesn't pay but has promised him the compensation of, at the end of the year of working for her, she will let him fuck her. But she's like, that's not gonna happen. But essentially, we just see everything play out after the very beginning of the book when they go to the airport to try to run one of their schemes of like stealing baggage. And something kind of goes wrong, and we also see her relationship with her daughter, whom she also hates because she hates her ex-husband, and her daughter is in this sort of like bounce club, like in terms of jumping up and down. Like she has this trampoline group and they are kind of a cult. It's very wild, essentially. This book is so funny and could only come from the mind of someone like John Waters, you know, some crazy, goofy dude. Sorry, I'm grabbing my tea. Who has a sort of comedic Hollywood campy eye. That is totally the vision that is carried out entirely in this novel. It's so fucking funny. I was genuinely laughing out loud the entire course of this novel, and it's very gross, as you can imagine. Like, all the disgusting things about, like, the body and shitting and I don't know, fucking, all, like, gross things, okay, happen in this book, and it's focused on for the purpose of, like, humor and slapstick comedy, almost, but it's pretty brilliant, I think, and it's not egregious. I think it is all done with this sense of humor and outrageousness that totally works, and I just love this book so much. It was such a delight to read, start to finish, and after I finished it, I was like, oh, I need a book that's like this book. I need something that is so funny and so wild and so crazy, and to be honest, I couldn't really find one until, and this gets me to my next favorite of the year, Kill for Love by Laurel Picklesiemer. This book is a satire, and it is darkly hilarious in a way that, like, Liarmouth is kind of also darkly hilarious, but how do I say this? The premise is also kind of outrageous, but I think that it is pretty brilliantly written in the way that we encompass the perspective and are totally put into the mind and body and soul of a vapid, shallow, very disgusting human being who is, of course, a wealthy sorority girl who is skinny, blonde, and just atrocious to everyone around her. Just does not give a fuck at all about anything or anyone except her beauty regimen, staying skinny, and this boyfriend of hers that she acquires and is obsessed with. She also finds this American Psycho-esque pleasure that isn't intellectualized the way that whatever the fuck his name is, Patrick Bateman in the movie, intellectualizes his murders of women. She murders frat boys because she loves it. Like, she gets off on it in a sexual way, in a way that's like, oh, it just brings her so much happiness. She goes around killing men and loves it, gets away with it, of course, and is really committed to planning that out and being able to carry it through. So we see her as this happens, and as that paralleling her involvement and her, you know, her dating this guy that she's obsessed with, who is totally the same as, like, all the guys that she's killing in terms of being just some frat boy type guy. But things just start to get pretty crazy. It's all set in LA, essentially. The landscape of LA is this sort of hyper-real, hyper-violent reality of our world currently that just sort of gets a little bit more absurd as we progress through the story, where, like, there's this sort of universal unifying violence of the world of, like, oh my god, there's a stabbing in this area last night, someone was killed and shot here, like, wow, the city is so dangerous, oh my god, all these terrifying homeless people. But of course, our main character is also like, wow, yeah, it's so scary how poor people are, like, killing people. Meanwhile, of course, she's killing people and getting away with it. We just get to see from her vantage point of being this woman who has obviously experienced pretty extensive sexual violation from the men around her and witnesses it constantly being a sorority girl, that how she views men in the world around her and the violence of everything, and as just a very rich person who is idly wealthy, will never have to work, and just hates her family, hates her sorority sisters, hates her roommate specifically, like thinks her roommate is so pathetic for caring about her sick grandmother and for being not as rich and a nerd and whatever. Our main character never goes to any of her classes, like paid someone to take her SETs for her, paid someone to get her into college. You know, she doesn't give a fuck, okay? We see the way that a patriarchal, capitalistic hellscape that is America functions from the perspective of this woman who is part and parcel of it, but also a victim of it as well as a woman. And I think it is so smart and funny in that way, because there was this one section sort of early in the book, maybe a third or fifth the way through. The author does this thing where she subverts a lot of obviously like rape narratives and serial killer male narratives, because, you know, so many stories and pieces of media are just the gratuitous coverage and narratives of men killing women for their pleasure and an exploration of their sick desires and like what made them this way. But our author isn't really concerned with that for our main character. Nothing made her this way, it doesn't seem. Like, she just really likes it. She hates the men around her, but she also loves this one guy. She's obsessed with this one guy. So it's this contradiction that isn't really contradictory, you know, if you think about it. And it brings up these really, really smart and laugh out loud for me. I don't even know if like, are other people getting this? Maybe I'm just a sick freak for like thinking this book was so funny, because like it is pretty gruesome in terms of how she's like stabbing people. Like in her first murder, she's talking about how she kills this guy and she's like, ugh. Basically she lures him into the space where she kills him by being like, oh, like you can hook up with me, essentially. But when she kills him afterwards, she's like, I mean, if he really didn't want to be killed, then like why did he come with me? Why didn't he take me seriously when I took out the knife? Like why didn't he, essentially turning that victim blaming nonsense used against women who are rape victims against the men that she kills in this way that is like sadistic and ridiculous and hilarious, and how it just reveals how like obviously no victim of a crime is like asking for it. The way that she is able to get away with so many things, and the way that she isn't seen as like a true threat by the people that she kills and who are lusting after her the whole time that she kills them and the whole process leading up to her killing them. It is just fascinating because it's like the gender dynamics, if they were reversed, would totally be different. And it kind of reveals how you can't be equal to people in an unequal society. Like, treat men and women the same, like treat people the same. Like, well, no, because that's not how the world works, because people do get treated differently. And so we kind of have to consider that when we consider narrative storytelling and also just how people are treated in the world and how we interact with each other. I think this book does such a funny, fantastic, excellent job of showing the brutality of patriarchal and capitalist violence, the interpersonal ramifications of that, and I think the relationship that our main character has with her roommate in the sorority house is also so fascinating, because they despise each other for obvious reasons, because our main character disdains her and thinks that she is so pathetic, and her roommate obviously knows that and is a smart girl and is like, okay, I hate you, shallow bitch. You're just every other rich girl here who is mean and terrible and doesn't give a fuck about anything except yourself. Like, she knows this, but basically we see how things play out. It's excellent, it's fun, but it definitely isn't for everyone because it's pretty gory and it says some things that I don't know everyone is ready to hear, I guess. And I get why people wouldn't like this or would think there's some elements that are kind of plot holes, but I think, again, I like really outrageous stories that I don't know what's going to happen next and just keep me hooked, and I think this book just really did that for me. Another incredibly outrageous book that is definitely a favorite of the year that I read during the summer was Exalted by Anna Dorn. This book is just so fucking funny. We're in the perspectives, alternatingly so, of two really atrocious women who... Can we see a theme here? Do we see a theme? These two terrible people. One of them being like a 40-something-year-old mom who is a lesbian who came out later in life and just has terrible views, and she lives in Riverside, California, which is pretty funny to me because my podcast co-host and bestie graduated from UC Riverside. But basically the mom lives in Riverside, California, and her son lives in LA. She is really obsessed with this Instagram account called Exalted that is a astrology account, and she, of course, is a Leo. As a Leo, she's obsessed with herself, and she's obsessed with all the memes that Exalted posts. And she, as a lesbian, is crazy. Like, this woman has, like, BPD or, like, bipolar. Like, she has a combination of mental illnesses that are undiagnosable, as evident in this book. Like, her anger issues and the way that she treats people is crazy. So all of her exes have been essentially abused by her. She calls them terrible names, calls them terrible things when they break up with her because of how she's like, at the very, her name is Dawn, I remember. Dawn is like, all my ex-girlfriends say that they're scared of me. That's why they break up with me over text, like in the first chapter. It's insane. But so that's the perspective that we follow. Then we follow another perspective of this like 20-30 something millennial who lives in LA in this like studio apartment, and she doesn't leave her house. She has like a collection of Juicy Couture because she like had a phase of it, but like she doesn't really, she doesn't do shit essentially with her life. And she's a failing actress. She's a failed actor essentially. She moved to LA because she wanted to get out of like Riverside, I'm pretty sure, as well, because she was like, ugh, nothing happens, like I just want to be like famous actress. Like, oh my god, also Dawn smokes inside her house constantly, and her neighbor hates that, obviously. Also, Dawn is a raging alcoholic. That's another major issue in her life. Anyway, so our other main character, her name, well, I don't even remember her name. Y'all know that I'm really bad at, well, if you do know, I'm really bad at remembering main character names, okay? But anyway, the other girl, the failed LA actress, she runs Exalted, but no one really knows that. And it's super popular, has like at least 100K followers. I forgot the exact number, but she like makes these memes, and she's been paid to write these articles for different magazines for astrology, but she doesn't really fully believe in it herself. Like she does readings and things, and it's just a way for her to like make money, you know? And so it's a bit of a gimmick, and we see the ways that astrology is sort of a gimmick for her and for others and for the way that she interacts with the world. And then she becomes super obsessed with this guy after she sees his chart, and she's like, wow, it's the perfect chart. Like, he's exalted. And so she becomes obsessed with him, and she starts essentially stalking him on Instagram, in real life. Like, she goes to this bar that he's always at. Things just go insane from there. Everything starts changing as Dawn has to come to terms with how the whole town knows that she's crazy, and like she can't date anyone anymore, and her friends, like she only has one friend who like doesn't really fuck with her anymore as well. And our other character, she is like trying to navigate she's not getting as much money from her Instagram account, and doing astrology stuff, and she's trying to track this guy down and like get him interested in her, and she's like really maneuvering and manufacturing all these circumstances so that it can happen. So we're seeing these women be like fail girls in a very serious way. Like they're not succeeding in life, okay? And it's really hilarious because of the ways that their lives don't really intersect, but they do, obviously. You just kind of have to go into this book knowing it's pretty outrageous and these people are pretty despicable human beings and that none of them are supposed to be likable, but I think the writing's pretty, just funny and engaging, and the world that she describes of like Instagram and astrology and all this is just so real, and everything at the end sort of ties up neatly, and there's a moment that I'm like, oh, what a gag. But yeah, no, I love this book. I thought it was so hilarious and brilliant and such a time capsule of like life right now in this moment and the craziness of it, but in a way that is both so service level and so indicative of like how human beings and how women specifically try to navigate how terrible of people they are and the ramifications of that. It's pretty brilliant in my opinion, but I know it's not going to be everyone's cup of tea, so that's why this video is my favorite of the year, part 2. Let me reiterate that these are my favorite books. So yeah, okay, and now it's time to talk about a fantasy novel or sci-fi fantasy, urban fantasy, that's also about a woman whose life is falling apart. Okay, that's also the main perspective of this book, and I thought it was really fun. Okay, it is The Dead Take the A Train by Cassandra Khaw and Richard Kadrey. I also talked about this in my most recent wrap up. It was such a ride while still touching on the exploitative nature of like work and abusive relationships and queer lesbian dynamics. It was really, really interesting. Basically, our main character is this 30-something-year-old washed up, living in New York in like a hovel of an apartment, drug addicted, alcohol addicted, freelance monster hunter. So she does these jobs and like gets paid nothing, basically, or people who try to hire her like will scam her out of her money, and she's like, you're fucking kidding me. So basically we follow her as she does that, and then her best friend from like college or something shows up at her doorstep and is like, hey, and she's kind of in love with her, and so we see that play out. But then basically like the Armageddon is low-key coming at this company, which is basically like evil LLC. It's like the monster situation company building. Our main character's ex-handler, who works, an ex-boyfriend kind of, who works there as one of the suit guys, he is trying to get her back to work for him so that he can like move up in the company. And of course it puts her life in danger because why does he care about her? And all this magical stuff is going down, and all these different creatures come up, and this intersection of like the reality of this gritty New York city and life and monsters and magic at the center of it, I think is done really well here. And it's also very funny and engaging with these characters that are very like vibrant and have very clear motivations. I'm not a big urban fantasy guy, like I'm just not super into that sort of thing, I guess, but I think like this type of fast-paced and really fascinating world building that just comes at you really fast, like there's no explanation of things really, like a little, like it's sprinkled throughout, but the world building is really immersive almost. Like it feels like when you go to New York and you're just getting dragged places by your best friend or just someone who lives there that you know, and you're like going to all these like bars and like stores and bookstores and libraries, I mean if you're me, but and you're like exploring all these places, and then you're getting chased, and then like, whoa. Another thing is that like so much of this book is our main character being in her apartment, getting a knock on the door, and then shit going down. Like it's pretty funny in my opinion, the way that is sort of like every time in this book when it was like, and then there was a knock on my door, I was like, of course there was. Of course there was. Some bullshit's about to go down. Like, there's like home invasion elements, of course. Some secret back clubs for magical people. in a bookstore, of course. There's like a magical grimoire, of course. There is a big monster entity trying to come back, of course. So yeah, I don't know. I think that this book was really, really fun and I had such a good time with it. I don't remember all the details because it's hard for me to remember that sort of thing for a fantasy that's like so expansive like this. Even though it's expansive, it's also limited within the scope of like, okay, these are a few city blocks. This is the life of one woman, and then like we get the perspective of her an ex-handler and his smarmy, annoying ass. Oh my god, I hated him so much. It was useful to be in his perspective to see like what was going on. And yeah, that's also why I think the character motivations of this are like very clear and articulated. It's very horror and gore based at times in a lot of scenes and like the fight scenes and stuff, but it's also, I think the tone is really on point for me and the characters are pretty strong. So, yeah, I fucked with it. The next book I want to talk about that is a favorite of the year, hands down 100%, was a book that I read in the summer that was called Desert Creatures by, hold on a fucking minute because I'm not even remembering the name of the person who wrote it. So let me go check. Chorister. I knew the name was K, the first name, but I didn't know the last name was Chorister. Anyway, again, I stayed up late reading it, and I, like, could not stop just devouring the whole fucking book. I mean, it's not a long book. It's not a long book, for sure. And it starts you just get in there, and you start running, you know? Like, you hit the ground running with this one, because the very first scene is this girl and her father running away from a community. And we're in this post-apocalyptic world. It is very almost Parable of the Sower-esque. The belief system that rules this world is centered around the holy city of Las Vegas and the different saints and Western mythologies that rule those stories, and we get to see all these different perspectives on how these saints and how the church of the saints and how the city itself was built from all these different people that our daughter and her father, they encounter these other people on the road and they become kind of a band. And then we get this perspective of this priest who is a heretic. He has heretic tattooed across his forehead. Yeah, it's that serious. He got kicked out of the church because he says that he can practice magic, essentially. Like, he's saying that he is basically a living saint. And so that's heresy. But he does have magical power that's not very useful. So he gets sent out into the wilderness where the girl is running in from. But the timelines are very interesting. There is part of the reality of like this desert is these desert creatures, which is that once you become desert touched, which is like when you drink or eat of the desert, many people succumb into these vegetal sort of lumbering in unconscious states of just being not alive, but almost just existing but as like a tree almost that can move. It's very strange. Even if you're starving and dying of thirst in the desert, you can't eat anything in the desert because all of it is human corpses. Every single plant in the desert is either a still, like a plant that is still and rooted into the ground, it's like a human corpse, or one of them that's like walking around. It's actually insane. I mean, I think my Goodreads review of it, I liked my Goodreads review, so let me go see what I said. Okay, so I read this at the end of August, so, if you've watched my August wrap-up, you've seen me talk about it. I don't remember if I read my Goodreads review in my August wrap-up. Also, here's my policy on Goodreads reviews. I don't write them for every book that I read because I don't feel like it, to be honest. Sometimes a book just makes me want to like about it. Other times I can't be fucked to do that. So I said, this is fucking crazy and I absolutely devoured it. Wilderness survival in a desolate future of deserts in the holy city of Las Vegas, the church born after the destruction of human civilization as we know it. As corrupt as a church always is. Parable of the Sower meets Annihilation meets the classic Western. The story of one desert-touched girl's life as it crosses a saint-touched priest's had me staying up late into the night to read. The body horror and grotesque plant, animal, human, monster creatures are as integral to the landscape as the pulpit preachers shouting prophecies in the last remaining pockets of civilization. Myth and legend and storytelling carries desert sand-filled winds that propel our characters, struggling with their deep moral ambiguity while also struggling to survive in spite of everything towards dangerous and unknown futures. Moments of this book felt almost like Women Talking by Miriam Teves, that's on my shelf actually, and other moments felt like Terra Nullius by Claire Coleman, also on my shelf but over there. Would recommend to people who enjoy action-packed, weird fiction. I stand by everything that I said. I think I kind of had a more poetic voice in this review than I usually do because I was inspired by the feeling that this book gave me. I don't think the prose is anything super poetic. I think it flows very well though, and I think this is a book that if you have any interest in like the southwestern American landscape or, you know, the exploration of the relationship between American religiosity and survival, this is the type of book you need to read. I'm gonna be honest, it's pretty excellent. But anyways, okay, that's my little insertion here. Also, I just wanted to say that the lipstick I'm wearing today is MAC Ruby Woo, and the perfume I'm wearing today is Clean Reserve Rain Reserve Blend. It's really nice. I really like the scent. It's not raining outside. It's very sunny outside actually, so but I just wanted to say that. Also, I got this t-shirt from All Power Books, which I think is in California somewhere, maybe San Francisco, maybe LA. I don't remember, to be honest. Anyways, back to the actual video. But yeah, these are all of my favorite books of the year. If you haven't watched part 1 yet, I don't know what you're doing. Those are also my favorite books of the year. As you can tell, I read some fantasy, some lit fic, some humorous stuff within that, some nonfiction, and yeah, a lot of it really stuck with me. This reading year was not that great in terms of like numbers and statistics wise. I might do a statistics video. Let me know if you would want to see that. I didn't reach my reading goal. I said I wanted to read like 150 books. I think I've read like 137 or something like that, or 136. It's just been such a hectic, busy year for me. I had to change my reading goal like midway through the year as well because it was just way too unrealistic. This year has been pretty crazy. Lots of things have changed. Lots of things have shifted and moved. I'm busier now than I have been ever before in my adult life, which is pretty insane. I mean, actually, is that even true? Like, I think I would say I'm busier in a social sense as well as a work sense in a way that, like, I don't know that I've been as overwhelmed as before. And also, I think my capacity to be able to handle all of it is just lowering because it's like you can only sustain as much work and energy as, like, you can until you're like, oh, let me go. But anyways, that's just some updates, I guess, on my part. But let me know if you've read any of these books and what your thoughts on them are, because if they're not your favorites of the year or whenever you read them, like, you know, that's fine with me, but I would love to know your thoughts on them. Or if any of these sound really interesting to you and you want to pick them up, that would be great to know as well in the comments down below. So yeah, if you haven't subscribed already, please do. That would be so amazing. Oh, you should also hit the notification button for when I post videos, because then you can watch my videos when they're posted. That would also be cool and amazing, don't you think? Anyways, so yeah, that is all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate you. And thank you for being here if you've been here all year, if you've started watching me this year. And I'll see you in my next video, hopefully. Okay, bye.